And welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm Salvador Cordova. And just you probably noticed that there's been not as many nerd streams on this channel. That's because all the nerd streams now are, not all, but a lot of them now are going to the Evidence Reasons Academy channel. And if you haven't subscribed, when I get around to it, I'll put the link in the video description so that you could go there. I think you can even just Google it and find Evidence Reasons Academy. The Evidence Reasons Academy, it is not very well subscribed, which is fine with me because I don't think I want to be inundated with lots of emails asking me technical questions. It's not that I don't want to help. It's actually because I want to help. It'd probably kill me if I had even 10 people a week trying to ask me technical questions. The internet is actually an opportunity. It's kind of an extension of my thought process. So a lot of times you'll just see kind of like raw ideas just thrown out, brainstorms, and I'll just read articles, sometimes maybe for the first or second time, right on the stream, and sometimes ideas pop up in my head. And so these editing room floors then start to work toward polished products, such as books, and sometimes even possible future peer-reviewed articles. And it also gives me a chance to get to read articles by creationists such as Russ Humphreys. Tomorrow I'm in a Zoom meeting with him. He is has been a professor of physics and also a scientist in the secular industry in electromagnetism. And I will be airing part of my Zoom call with him. I'm hoping we'll have regular meetings with him. Also, Dr. Paul Guillaume, professor at Loma Linda, comes on my channel occasionally. I'm expecting even more professionals professional creationist researchers to join the academic channel. I'll be doing some really basic stuff just to reteach myself Maxwell's equations. And it's been a while. Maxwell's equations of electrodynamics. I hope I'm going to invite Dr. Seigart, and we'll do readings of biology papers. So it's just going to be just nerd heaven at Evidence Reasons Academy. We'll be privileged to have real scientists, scientists who are either just, many of them are Christians, some of them are theistic evolutionists. There'll be some that are creationists of a wide variety, and we'll nerd out. It's a chance to see. It's really great to meet creation scientists who have been successful also in the secular world. And that's kind of the community I'm trying to build there. I'm not eager to get lots of views. I really don't need the headaches. I'm looking forward to maybe being even on a book tour as I'm trying to finish up a book. And I signed a minor television deal, so that's exciting. And they're just nice opportunities out there. And so that's why you're not seeing as many of these nerd sessions here on this channel. It's because I'm shipping it off to the other channel just to kind of compartmentalize things so that it kind of gives kind of an expectation and brand of what you can get on this channel. I'm also building a website along with a professional web developer so that it'll have a lot of evidence, reasons, and apologetics materials for those who are looking. It says in the Bible, God, you're surely a God who hides himself. And it's worth a Bible study to see that the Lord does hide himself many times. And he hides a lot of truth. Now, that has to also be balanced out with the places like Romans 1:18, where it says his invisible attributes, his eternal power are clearly seen in the things that are made. So that's something interesting to navigate, but I really think the case for Christianity, for those who are willing to look for the hidden treasures, it's there. It's there. Maybe it's not as much evidence as any of us would like to have to persuade us, but think about any major decision you've made in life. Did you have all the facts? Or at some level, did you have a piece of faith? So that's what I'm arguing here. And this is going to be an interesting story. I'm just going to start reading about William J. Murray's story. I think when I teach an apologetics, um, like Bible study or whatever, which I've been doing, not really teaching it. It's more just being a facilitator, where on Friday night we just have a small group and we just kind of bring what we think has been inspiring to help us, comfort us, and reassure us that God is there. It's not to teach us how to debate. We need even professional apologists need to be fed and reassured that God is there, because there's lots of bad things that happen in the world, and sometimes God feels very remote. And so we just bring articles and things that we find to reassure us that God is there. And one of the most popular things that at every meeting is Christian testimony, especially those people that have come from non-Christian backgrounds, found the Lord, and God changed their lives. So I'm going to read a article, and I'm going to try to finish it up soon, because there's going to be a stream on Praise I Am's channel in a little bit, and I want to respect my friends there. And let me just say greetings, Brian Stevens and Joseph Tim Merriman. So let me bring this up here. Man, there are all these hot rods all over the place. Oh, Brian, thank you for giving me views. So let me see here. This, the Washington Post has generously made this article available. And let me see if I still have a picture. I'm going to look for a picture. I had a picture of, one moment, William Murray. Just gonna, this is the picture I think I had the thumbnail for. Let me just see if I could grab it again. And here it is. I'm pretty sure this fine-looking gentleman here is William Murray Young, and then his brother John, and his mother Madeline Murray O'Hare. Now, I had shared kind of, for those of you who saw last night's show, this is a tragic picture right here. William had a son, I think at age like 15 or something. And so, I mean, William had a daughter at like age 15, or very, very young. And his daughter was an atheist, got very attached to the mom, which is her grandmother, and then her uncle, which is this boy here. Those three were murdered because Madeline Murray O'Hare loved murderers. She had kind of a very dark personality, full of hatred, and she seemed to like someone that was a murderer, because I mean, I'm interpolating a little bit here, but her son William Murray said Madeline Murray kind of liked the fact that these were ex-convicts, ex-felons, and they took other people's lives. Maybe there was a kinship, maybe in the hatred of humanity there, because everyone that knew her, even people that were trying to help her, said she was just a very bitter, nasty woman, really bitter, nasty woman. And maybe she found kinship with people that were just like that. And a kinship, she liked the controls. I mean, there's a passage where William points this out. She sought the guy out. He was already and thank you, Brian Stevens, for the comment. Yes, that was the guy. She hired him as a convicted felon. He was already a murderer. And then he fired her because he stole money from her. So while they're working together, it was okay. But once you stab or bite the hand that feeds you, she took exception to that and started talking about his sexuality and etc. In an article in her usual nasty style. So the way she just poured it out on Christians and ministers and insulted people, she did that to this ex-convict, and she definitely had a lot of ammo given his history. And he swore, he fantasized about killing her, and he did. After he killed her, took a circular saw, cut her up in pieces, put her in a 55-gallon drum. I mean, this was savage. This was just absolutely savage. And so, yes, amen. Although I do not think she was doing that because she was trying to reform him. That's just my guess. But as far as second chances, William J. Murray's story is just a beautiful story. And just take it for what it's worth. And okay, so what is this picture again? Let me see if I could show it. This is them at the Supreme Court of the United States. William Murray was the boy that was reporting about praying in public schools. And Madeline Murray just hated Christians and wanted to end school prayer. She filed a lawsuit. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. William Murray, okay, there's a whole story why his name's Murray and her name is Murray O'Hare. She remarried. She was never married to someone named Murray. That was a child in an adulterous affair, but wanted to give the boy the last name of the father. So kind of a long story. Maybe we'll pick it up in the article. So I'm just going to read this article. Ex-atheist apologized for his high school prayer role. And this is May 21st, 1980. Hang on, let me bring up the article. May 21st, 1980. And he has remained faithful to the Christian faith for decades. So sometimes these people convert and then they deconvert. He has remained faithful. May 21st, 1980, Felicity Behringer. The one-time atheist teenager from Baltimore who stayed home from school. One moment. Try to get the font a little bigger. Good. Get that blasted ad out. The one-time atheist teenager from Baltimore who stayed home from school rather than listen to teachers pray came to the U.S. Capitol yesterday to apologize for his role in the 1963 Supreme Court ruling that ended formal prayers in public schools. I admit being beguiled. I admit being misled, said William Joseph Murray, son of strident atheist Madeline Murray O'Hare. Now looking back at the damage that was done, I can only urge others to help me correct some of the damage. The conservative congressmen to the left of him clapped. The fundamentalist ministers to the right of him clapped. Cameras clicked as he stood, smiling before the large "In God We Trust" sign. At 33, Bill Murray has found God, quit his job, and set about making amends, embraced as a prodigal son by his newfound friends. That's kind of a cynical way of putting it. But that's the Washington Post. What can I say? Brian Stevens says, I think teachers can't lead people in prayers, which I agree with. Oh, I agree. I mean, just as an aside, just so you know where I stand on this, I don't think I'd want some of those. Let's say we have a teacher that is nasty on the inside as some of the atheists that I run on the internet, and they happen to be a high school teacher. I wouldn't want them leading my kids in prayer. It's insincere. It's not, it's God's not going to listen to that prayer anyway. I'd rather have a Christian teach. And the other thing is, maybe we ought to dissolve public schools, but that's a conversation for another time. And in a country that has made a small industry out of apologies and conversions, watching everyone from Stalin's daughter to Nixon era government officials renounce their past, there are plenty of people who want to hear him. In the 2 weeks since Murray wrote letters to regret to newspapers in Baltimore and Austin, Texas, where his mother's American Atheist Center is located, he has received, by his own count, more than 100 congratulatory letters and 2 book offers. He has also appeared on NBC's Tomorrow Show and been besieged with interview requests. At first, Murray said he recoiled from the publicity, but by the end of yesterday's press conference called by Representative Philip Crane, Republican of Illinois, to publicize legislation that would remove school prayer issue from the federal court's jurisdiction, Murray seemed to have adjusted to all the attention. One after another, congressmen, ministers, veterans, and JCs were lining up to shake his hand, blinking as the flashbulbs popped. When you think that he was an instrument used as a boy to help take prayer out of the schools, said James Robeson, Fort Worth, Texas minister, it is good he can be used as a man to help restore it. A boy, you see, can be used. A man can make his own decisions. In fact, Murray has become an instant icon for the national movement to reinstate school prayers. He gave the movement great visibility, said William Chasey, a lobbyist for Religious Roundtable Issues and Answers, one of 20 organizations pushing the legislation, which is mired in the House Judiciary Committee. Sitting in his hotel room Monday night, relaxing after the flight from Houston and jotting down thoughts to be used in yesterday morning's remark, Murray remained deliberately low-key about his new religion and his new role. He looks a little older than his years. Gray runs through his straight brown hair, above the neat, light-colored suit of a Southern businessman, which until Friday he was. His eyes are constantly moving back and forth. I'm not saying God has brought me here for some special mission, said Murray, turning a pack of Marlboros over and over in his hand and reflecting on life. Recently abandoned as a middle-level manager for a variety of small and large airplane companies. Every single individual who will be here at the press conference will have some purpose, Murray said. They are not here for my use. I am here for theirs. We are all here for the use of God. Out of 150 people there, you'll find 149 people with stories better than mine. His conversion, Murray said, was not a matter of an apocalyptic moment of revelation. My eyes did not turn glassy, and I didn't pick up a Bible and run into the streets to convert others. It was a matter instead of months of intellectual tinkering with the concept of God, of reading books, and of a momentary rejection of the notion of God, a rejection that he said turned his life to chaos. Late last year, looking back over everything he said has gone wrong with his life, since the day in 1964 when he fled Maryland after a family melee with Baltimore police officers, he decided that unbelief helped cause his troubles, while belief made them manageable. The troubles, which he described in a monotone, included a teenage marriage that ended before he was 21, a brief army career that went haywire after security officers questioned him on his mother's political beliefs, a rootless search for a management job where he wouldn't be asked about the woman he calls Madeline, and eventually depression and alcoholism. Most of all, he said, for the last 20 years, I've been trying to escape Madeline's overpowering shadow of evil. He enlisted in the Army in 1968 after 2 years at the University of Hawaii, a year or so running a taxicab company in Hawaii, and a year of working at his first airline job as a load and balance agent dealing with plane cargoes for Qantas Airlines. Oh, this is a good question. All right, I got it. Okay, time out here. All right, so I worked for the Internal Revenue Service as a co-op student in 1984. When I had, we all had to raise our right hand, and take an oath of office, just like every civil servant, and all the way up to the President of the United States. When I was questioned, I was asked if I was a member of the Communist Party. So that was what, almost 40 years ago. That's 38 years ago. The climate back then is not like what it is now. Back then, if you were associated with communism, a bad deal. So the country had a much stronger Christian culture back then. I have to, I would say this, I doubt the sincerity of a lot of the people attending Sunday. I think there was just a lot of cultural momentum, and it eventually waned. And, people just, I think, ironically, I actually think the atheist movement has made people who actually are in church now, they're really there because they really believe it, not because of so much cultural momentum. And I actually think that's long-term healthy. But yeah, I remember back then I was scared because even though I wasn't a member of the Communist Party, I had visited certain leftist organizations, just even though I was definitely not a leftist. I just wanted to learn more. And I said, well, I'm not a leftist, and I don't think visiting counts as me being a member of that organization in a meaningful way. So anyway, let's go on. But yes, Red Scare was definitely in there. In my lifetime, that's a lot of this has changed. I will point out also the military has changed also, as far as like it was adverse information if you were homosexual or transgendered or sleeping around in the process of trying to get security clearances. These were considered adverse. I don't know what the status is now of all those things. Although cheating on your wife, like what happened to General Petraeus, because it led to a national security leak, he got fired from his job because he's very sensitive position, being former CIA director. I had a show on Paula Broadwell and General Petraeus, by the way, last year. But let's move on. He wanted to be a helicopter pilot. He wanted to be a helicopter pilot. He said, so he joined the warrant officers training program, but then came a security check, lots of questions, lots of forms to fill out. I broke under questioning, he said, went AWOL, returned to an Army hospital where he said he stayed for a month suffering from exhaustion. After that, until his discharge in 1970, he served in military police. Hawaii was as close as he got to Vietnam. Now, if that story doesn't quite jive, I've seen this where the reporters just don't write well. It's not clear. I don't know why I'm able to get through, Brother Otangelo. So maybe we're just lucky that I could read it this one time. I don't know why it got unblocked for me. Before I forget, because apparently you really like this, and it's actually one of the best articles. This may be kind of the brute force method here, brother. So I'm going to at least try to get you something. So I'm going to make a text document, and it won't be nicely formatted. I'm just going to cut and paste it in. See if I can get it for you. Oh, this is a great article, but I encourage you, as I said, my channel will be this channel is basically now split off into two channels, where one just has all my nerd stuff, and then I can have more stuff like this. Oh wait, I think I can save this. See if I could save as a, there is a single file MHTML. I'll try to send you as a MHTML. And let me try to, I'm sorry to interrupt the programming, but Tangelo is a special guy, and I definitely want to help him. So, okay, if it doesn't open, I tried my best. I tried to do a cut and paste, but it's going to get you all the advertisements. So, so let's keep moving. And you could share this video, if nothing else, although they'll get probably lots of unwelcome commentary. So let's go back to the regular scheduled programming. You're welcome, Otangelo. All right, so some of this, you know, just take it for what it's worth. I've seen reporters kind of botch things and it doesn't seem like quite right until you get the whole story. Then it was back to airline work. To Texas and Braniff Airlines this time for 4 full years. For a full 4 years, I wanted to be an ideal airline manager, not the son of a kook, referring to his mother, he said. As he moved from one airline to another, a pattern began to evolve, Murray said. At first, the identity has always been, Bill Murray is a fantastic this, a fantastic that, a great manager, a good pilot. He has a private pilot's license. Then someone would find out, I'm Madeline's son. As soon as the word got out, that was the subject of conversation, not the business at hand. You know, is she a maniac, Bill? Then I'm no longer the good executive or fine business manager or fabulous pilot or whatever. Then I'm Madeline's son, period. In 1975, Murray said he decided to eliminate the problem by rejoining his mother and working for her center in Austin. What followed, he says now, were 2 years of pure hell. I'd forgotten, he said, what close association with a group that was that revengeful and hate-filled was like. I'd forgotten what close association with a group that was that revengeful and hate-filled was like. I'd always been a fairly heavy social drinker. By the time I left Austin, I was drinking a quart a day. Just commentary here. The internet's a really toxic place. Both people of all faith persuasions. I'm not going to just single out atheists, but I tell you just the amount of hatred by anti-theist websites. It's creepy, and he's just saying how toxic it is. I mean, you just look at the battles among atheists versus atheists, like say between Richard Carrier and P.Z. Myers. It gets ugly, guys. It gets filthy ugly. Don't want a part of it. So I'd always been a fairly heavy social drinker. By the time I left Austin, I was drinking a quart a day. I didn't realize how bad it was until a year and a half after I got out of Austin and started looking at myself locked in the bathroom every night with a bottle of scotch and a bucket of ice. I didn't realize how bad it was until a year and a half after I got out of Austin and started looking at myself locked in the bathroom every night with a bottle of scotch and a bucket of ice. Every time he mentions his mother, who is now 60, hate, contempt, and perhaps pity move in and out of his tone. His father, for whom he was named, got away from her as soon as he could, and last appeared in Bill's life at a childhood birthday party, his 8th or 10th, he says. She, in turn, has nothing nice to say about him. In an interview with the Baltimore Sun, the day Bill's letter appeared, O'Hare, who spent years as a psychiatric social worker, said, "This is a way of getting back at mother." Okay, you have a psychiatric social worker and it's Madeline Mary O'Hare. That's scary. Since then, she has stopped talking to the press. The American Atheist Center merely issues the following statement in her name. We note in the news that William Murray is going to retire early and live off religious money. We are happy when any atheist gets some of that Christian scam money. We anticipate that he will tithe to the American Atheist Center, since the money to him comes from his attack on us. The AAC is not obligated to discuss William Murray's problems, end quote. Mother and son have not talked in 3 years. Murray, who married again 3 years ago, said, she's never seen my younger daughter, Jade. So I presume that's the daughter from the second marriage, not from the first. Jade, age 2. His daughter, by his teenage marriage, 15-year-old Robin. Okay, I got this wrong. It wasn't that he knocked the girl up at age 15. I got my facts confused here. At the time of this article, his daughter is 15 years old. Sorry, guys. His daughter by his teenage marriage. 15-year-old Robin lives with O'Hare. Of the days in Baltimore when the suit was being fought, that's the lawsuit, the days when street fights were a normal occurrence for Murray and in hospitals, a second home, he has only bitter words. He was the plaintiff in Murray versus Kirtland, but the case was totally his mother's making, he says. Let me read that paragraph. It's talking about how bitter his days were growing up. Of the days in Baltimore when the suit was being fought, the days when street fights were a normal occurrence for Murray and hospitals a second home, he has only bitter words. He was the plaintiff in Murray versus Kirtland, but the case was totally of his mother's making, he says. At the time, Madeline Murray told all comers that it was Bill, aged 14, who prompted the lawsuit by coming home from Woodburn Junior High School and telling her she would be a hypocrite if she sat back and let schools sanction prayer. It's beautifully dramatic, Murray says now, but it simply isn't true. Instead, he said his mother heard the prayers when bringing him to see a counselor one day and asked if it was a daily occurrence. He said yes. That basically started the whole thing. For him, okay, so you could see Murray has a different account of what Madeline is saying. So for him, atheism was not a matter of conscience at all. It was a non-issue with me, he said, both during his teenage years and later, when he helped manage the Atheist Center. It was only after alcoholism and an emotional unraveling that ended in confrontation with Houston police last July that he decided to take religion seriously, he said. So, I mean, we do see this. People get involved in causes they don't necessarily, they're not really, their heart's not really in the actual substance of the belief stated. So we see people on the religious side or atheist side, it's more of family or a social momentum. I think that's the way I read this. The confrontation came after he locked himself in the bathroom for several days until his wife called police and he fired a .22 caliber rifle through the door at officers trying to talk him out. The bullet went harmlessly between two officers. Praise God for that. A SWAT team was called in. Murray was arrested and taken to the Harris County Jail, charged with attempted murder of a police officer. Last October, he pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of aggravated assault and was sentenced to 5 years probation. The guy got more than a second chance there, guys. Praise God that no one got hurt. I mean, if I were just, if I were there, I would have thrown him in jail because that's just, you know, somehow the judge went on easy on him. I began to see that as long as I tried to do things my way, without God, it wasn't going to work, Murray says now. I began to see it was like there was a path laid out in front of me, and I'd say, I don't want to do that. That isn't for me. And I'd wander off into the wilderness, and God would set me back on the path. Finally, God picked me up and slapped me 3 or 4 times in the face and said, would you please pay attention and go back to the path again? So I did. Murray won't say what religious denomination, if any, he belongs to. Okay. Again, this is a 1980 article. He's now a Baptist minister. I don't think that's relevant, but when Crane's office called him on Friday to ask him to participate in the press conference, and he found that 20 different groups, both religious and business, would be represented, he agreed. Murray paid for his $151 plane ticket himself. I wish they were that low these days. He points out that it bears his credit card impression. He does concede that one of the participating groups, he won't say which, offered to pay his way. He hasn't decided whether to accept. Why did he write the letters that began it all 2 weeks ago? I don't know. I felt it was something I should do. I came to believe I had been involved in something that had probably done irreparable damage to the moral foundation of the Republic. I had the feeling that the only thing I could do was apologize. And I think that's the end of the article. Let me just scan it to make sure that's the end of the article. Yep. The rest are just other articles and advertisements. So like a lot of news articles, newspaper articles, you know, rather than say a magazine article, it's written hastily, has an abrupt ending. That's just the style. And let's see, it's 11:20. Praise I Am. I'll direct you all to Praise I Am's channel. I promised Sparrow that I'd end before theirs started, so there's 5 minutes to go. Let me just reflect on this. That was a 1980 article. There's a lot more that came out. I've openly said I'm not in favor of secular schools trying to teach religion. That's for the church. It's the church's job. It's the family's job in the church to teach the children religion, not a public school. I mean, I wouldn't want some evolutionary leaning teacher who hates creationism teaching creationism to creationist kids. So those are, but there is a video that I posted earlier that said, William Murray said, this really wasn't about First Amendment rights. Okay, so sometimes someone will file a lawsuit that claims one thing, but the agenda is different. And he said, this was all about communism. Madalyn Murray O'Hair was a utopianist. She was wanting to remove Christian foundations so that a communist utopia would be ushered in. And I think, just go to that video I posted, and it says she was actually trying to like expatriate to Moscow or something like that. And she's trying to curry favor with the Russians. And so all this stuff was what she's really famous for wasn't really where her heart was. She was definitely anti-God. She wanted to destroy prayer, wanted to insult Christians, a lot of hatred in her heart. I have another article, maybe I'll read tomorrow night, that talks about her anger. And I'm just going to give a, see if I have it here. Let me see. I'll just give you a taste. So it talks about Madalyn Murray being at one time somewhat religious, but she said yes, close. So, you know, it's great for the internet, and then we have advertising because that finances things, but it gives lots of annoying advertisements in the article. But this is a taste of things tomorrow. When Roths returned, Roths is the first husband of Madalyn Murray O'Hair. By this time, Mother's antagonism, Mother's being, okay, when Roths returned, he gallantly offered to stay with his wife and raise the child as his own, but Madeline declined and proceeded to sue him for divorce. So Madeline had a child of someone other man, but Roths offered, her first husband offered to raise the William J. Murray, as his own. But Madeline declined and proceeded to sue him for divorce. By this time, Mother's antagonism toward God had reached an advanced stage, Murray notes. This is William Murray talking about his mom, Madeline. By this time, Mother's antagonism toward God had reached an advanced stage, Murray notes. During a violent electrical storm, Madeline suddenly announced to her parents that she was going out in the storm, quote, to challenge God to strike me and this child dead with one of those lightning bolts, end quote. The pregnant Madeline stood in the rain, waving her fist and cursing God. You see, she cried when she returned inside. If God exists, he would surely have taken up my challenge. I proved irrefutably that God does not exist. So thank you all for joining me today, and we'll finish. And greetings to Redeem Team and Pro Debates, Ryan Stevens, and Otangelo. Thank you all for joining on the stream, and I will now close up with my usual Rachmaninoff. So let me find it. Take care, and may the Lord richly bless you. Hopefully I'll see you one of these evenings. We'll finish up. We'll probably have one or two more articles on this, the O'Hare saga. Take care and God bless you.